Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people, welcome to Freedom Friday here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am so very grateful to be connecting with you today as we continue our journey into mindfulness and presence in this April. Well, this month we've been exploring on how being fully present in our lives, right? Being aware, awake, and engaged in what's happening right now. That it can transform everything from our relationships to our creativity to our inner peace. And today we are focusing on something powerful, how mindfulness liberates us from the patterns and the habits that keep us, That keep us stuck. Well, we had such a rich week of conversations from Dr. Will Insights on Mondays about the power of now, to Tuesday exploration of body wisdom, to Alexa Darrin teaching on inner guidance on Wednesday, and to yesterday's discussion about creating sacred space. Well, today we are bringing it all together to understand on how presence is the ultimate path to freedom. But before we dive deeper into this conversation, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Ready to transform how you think about love and mental health? This May, join host Nyomi Banks and Dr. Will Washington and expert guests on Love and Mental Health, a powerful 4-part series exploring relationships through the lens of mental wellness. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. Do you have a story to share? Your experience matters. Email us at asknyomi@gmail.com and be part of the conversation that's changing lives.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, my beautiful people, welcome back. All right, so before we dive into this, let's ground ourselves with our 4-4-6 breathing practice, just to help us to arrive at this moment together, all right? So if you all can just close your eyes right now if you can, and just prepare to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4, and then exhale through your mouth for a count of 6, all right? All right, so let's begin. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now one more time. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I want you to feel how this breath creates space in your body and mind. Feel how it brings you into the present moment. Now I want you to bring your awareness to any patterns that you notice in your body or mind right now. Perhaps there's tensions in your ability to hold your shoulders. Maybe there are thoughts that cycle repeated through your mind. I want you to just notice these patterns without judgment and seeing them clearly with mindfulness awareness. Now, as you continue breathing naturally, I want you to imagine that your awareness is like a light, illuminating these patterns. And in that illumination, I want beginning to dissolve them. Feel the freedom that comes from simply seeing clearly. Take one more deep breath in. And when you exhale, I want you to bring the sense of clear seeing and freedom with you as you continue with our conversation, all right? You can gently open your eyes when you're ready. All right, my beautiful people, if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, this is something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help ground us before we get into the topic at hand. All right, so when we think about freedom, I think about what Dr. Will said on Monday on how mindfulness helps us decrease anxiety symptoms and break free from what we call irrational contemplation and foreshadowing random doom, right? What that really resonated with me because I've experienced firsthand on how being present liberates us from the mental patterns that create unnecessary suffering. You see, most of us live caught in automatic patterns, ways of thinking, feeling, or behaving that we've developed over the years or even decades. And these patterns once served us in some way, but many of them has outlived their usefulness. They become prisons that limit our choices and narrow even our own experience of life. You see, well, mindfulness is the key that unlocks these prisons. When we're fully present, we can see our patterns clearly instead of being unconsciously driven by them. And what I've discovered is that this seeing, this clear awareness itself is liberating. So let me share something personal with you. For years, I've had a pattern of overcommitting myself, saying yes to everything and everyone, and pushing my body beyond its limits, ignoring the signals of exhaustion until I crash. And see, with these patterns, came from a belief that my worth was tied to my productivity and my availability to others. And when I first began practicing mindfulness, I started to see the patterns clearly. I noticed the automatic yes that would come out of my mouth before I can even consider whether I had capacity for it. I noticed the anxiety that would arise when I thought about setting boundaries. It was horrible. I noticed the physical symptoms that were telling me that I was approaching burnout. So just seeing these patterns, really seeing it with mindful awareness began to create space between the trigger and my response. And in that space, I found the freedom to choose differently. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. It's like when I get a phone call from someone or someone asking me if I can do something. It wasn't like I didn't want to do anything. It was just like I didn't know how to make what I was doing more important, if that makes sense. So when I get a phone call and it was like automatically like, yes, I would do. I don't know if it was a guilt that I was having for myself on what the possibilities of me doing, meaning that I knew there were so many things that I can do that I can help someone in any circumstance and situations that is, whatever that I had, I was willing to give, whether it was advice, whether it was money, whether it was my time. It was just something that I wanted to give to others, especially when I thought maybe at the time when I needed it, I didn't have it. So I wanted to make sure that I had that for everybody. And trying to understand what your boundaries are. I didn't know what boundaries were. I just thought that that's something that I had to be done, especially if it was family and friends. Especially if it was family and friends. When that phone ring or someone come by the house, my door was open. I was trying to mimic the same things that my beautiful grandmothers taught me about the revolving door, about, what is the community raises the neighborhood, the neighborhood raises the children. This is what we do. I forgot the saying, but that is the generation that I came from. That is what my grandparents, both of my grandmothers, did. And so that's what I thought that I will have to do to be, amazing, beautiful women as they were, as well as all of the other things that I was gifted with to do in my life. And so I didn't know that this will cause me to burn out in some ways, or have me stuck in a habit of thinking that my worth is about how much I do. How much I do. So again, just by seeing this pattern and really seeing how mindful awareness, um, just seeing it was a eye-opening for me. So now, how exactly does mindfulness liberate us from limiting patterns? There are three keys that I've experienced in my own journey. First, mindfulness creates awareness of patterns that were previously unconsciously, as I mentioned before. I just automatically yes, and didn't know why, but just say yes. And we can't change what we can't see. So when we practice mindfulness, it shines a light on the automatic reactions, on the automatic beliefs, on the automatic behaviors that have been running our lives without our knowledge. And this awareness is so essential in the first step towards freedom. As Alexa has mentioned on Wednesday, that many of us are carrying beliefs and patterns that don't even belong to us. They're energies that we picked up from others, or conditioning that we absorbed from society. Mindfulness, it helps us to distinguish between what's automatically ours and what we've taken on from outside resources. And second, mindfulness creates a pause between simultaneously and response. Viktor Franklin, the psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor, famously said, between simultaneously and response, there is a space. And in that space, our power is to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. You see, mindfulness expands that space. So when we're present, we don't automatically react based on all patterns. We can pause, take a break, and we can choose a response that aligns with our values and our intentions rather than our conditions or our conditioning. This is what Dr. Will was talking about when he mentioned that mindfulness helps us to respond rather than to react. It's about breaking free from automatic pilot and reclaiming our power to choose. And the third mindfulness is to cultivate compassion and acceptance of what is. So much of our suffering comes from fighting against reality, wishing things were different, judging ourselves harshly, resisting difficult emotions. And with these resistances, it keep us stuck in a pattern of struggling and dissatisfaction. You see, when we practice mindfulness, we learn to meet our experience with compassion and acceptance. This doesn't mean we don't take action to change things that need changing, but we do so from a place of acceptance rather than rejection of what is. And this acceptance is what allows true change to happen. Now, I want to be real with you about something important. Breaking free from long established pattern, it isn't easy, and it's not instant. These patterns have deep roots in our nervous systems, in our psyches. They've been reinforced over years and over decades. And mindfulness isn't a magic wand that makes them disappear overnight. But what mindfulness does do, it offers a pathway to gradually to unwind these patterns through consistent practice and compassionate awareness. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about catching ourselves a little earlier each time we fall into an old pattern, responding with a little more freedom each time we face our triggers. I am big on that. I see it, I feel it. Oh, uh-oh. I will catch it. I would catch it. I would check it. I will laugh about it. It's and let me tell you something. It's funny when you are so aware, when you so consciously aware of something, a trigger that's getting ready to happen, and you laugh about it. And it's a laughter of joy because not only have you seen, you literally see what it is, and you be like, oh my God, I've been tripping about this all this time for nothing. But then you sit in it and it be like, oh my God, I've grown for that and I understand what this is. I understand what this is. You know, what I've experienced in my own journey with the pattern of overcommitment that I mentioned earlier, through mindfulness practice, I began to notice the physical sensation that would arise when someone asked me something, the tightening of my chest, the anxiety about disappointing them, the automatic yes of forming in my lips. So over time, I learned to pause in that moment, take a breath, and check my body and my capacity before responding. Sometimes I still said yes, but it was a conscious choice rather than an automatic reaction. And other times I practiced saying no or let me think about it. Words that had me incredible difficult for me in before. So let me share this. I actually had this experience last Friday. There's something that's going on with the whole entire family. And what I try to do, I try to not distance myself from things, but when circumstances happen that I wasn't in those rooms, in those spaces when those things happen, I don't know who's telling the truth or who is lying because I have different relationships with these people. And so for me to say that I don't believe anyone, it's a hard thing to do. So when someone is telling me their story in their side, I try to come from a place of the being more of a moderation, of not taking sides, as I said before, but trying to hear both sides and find a different perspective. And first of all, I'm trying to find a solution of why you are always in this predicament or you are in a similar predicament as this. What is it that you need to do for yourself? And I remember in that conversation that was happening there, and I remember just listening. And in that moment, I was taking breath and I was saying, what is my answer to this person? Because it can't be a yes and it can't be a no. And so I said, let me pray on it. Let me pray on it. And then I will call you back. And honestly, I'm still praying on it because I want to make sure that when I respond back to that person, that it will not be coming from a judgmental point of view. Two, it will be coming from a place of wanting that person to get some kind of help or whatever. And that goes for all parties involved. But just in that moment, and I remember thinking, was like, wow. And this was during the week that I took off. And it was like, wow, I wonder if would I be able to make that same choice if I had worked all last week, if I hadn't taken that week off to really sit in and understand what being present in mindfulness was, would I have made that same decision? Or would I have given a reaction and not listen to give a thoroughly thought out response? If that makes sense. If that makes sense. So when we talk about mindfulness not happening overnight, it don't. It don't. There's been many times that I fell back into my own patterns, but I am so happy that I did take last week off because it truly did prepare me for that conversation that I had with that loved one, that I can stop myself from before even answering or having that talk with them and say, I have to pray on it. I have to think about it and I have to pray on it. And I will call you back. Because I had to get right with it. I have to get right with it. I have to understand what that looks like, what that conversation is going to look like. So let me share 3 practices that have helped me to break free from limiting patterns of mindfulness. The first pattern is a recognition meditation. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes to sit quietly and ask yourself, what patterns am I currently experiencing in my life? I want you to notice those patterns in your thoughts, emotions, your behaviors, or relationships. What are those? Notice those patterns if they're in your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, or in your relationships and your relationships. And as each patterns arise, I want you to simply note it without judgment. And then ask, how is this pattern serving me? How is this limited me? And I want you to write down your insights after your meditation. Second, we're going to call this the mindful pause practice. Throughout your day, especially in challenging situations, I want you to intentionally pause before responding. Take one conscious breath. Check in with your body. What sensations are present? And I want you to notice any automatic reactions that are rising. Then I want you to choose your response with awareness rather than reacting from habit. And the third, we're going to call this self-compassion break. When you catch yourself in your old pattern, instead of self-criticism, try this. Place your hand on your heart and acknowledge the difficulty. This is a moment of struggle. Recognize your shared humanity. Many people struggle with this pattern and offer yourself kindness. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I be kind to myself in this moment. And this practice helps break the cycle of shame that often keeps patterns in place. You see, these practices, they help us to cultivate the awareness and the compassion needed to gradually break free from limited patterns. They help us to reclaim our freedom to choose rather than being driven by unconscious conditioning. Now, I want to address something that often comes up when we talk about freedom through mindfulness. That's the relationship between acceptance and change. You know, some people carry that accepting what it means of giving up on or growth. So let me say that again. Some people worry that accepting what is means giving up on growth or improvement. Does that make sense? They fear that mindfulness means passively accepting everything, including situations that need to change. But that's a misunderstanding of true mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to accept what is in this moment, not because we're giving up on change, but because this acceptance is the foundation of effective action. So when we clearly see and accept what is, then we can respond with wisdom rather than react from conditioning. Does that make sense? So in this paradox of mindfulness, we accept what is, and through that acceptance, we create conditions for transformation. We acknowledge our patterns without judgment, and that non-judgmental awareness begins to dissolve this power over us. So when we accept what is right now, what we're doing at this moment, at this time, and not so focused on what we can do in the future, let's focus on what we have right now. And in this process, if we focus on what we have right now and we're sitting in this moment right now, they can help clear our mind right now to better create the things to transform in. Does that make sense? All right. So for myself, I've experienced paradox with dealing with my vertigo recently. And for a long time, I resisted it, pushing it through, ignoring my body's signals, fighting against the need to rest. And then this resistance only made these symptoms worse and prolonged the experience. So when I finally practiced mindful acceptance and really acknowledging what was happening in my body without judgment or resistance, something shifted. I was able to truly listen to what my body needed, and I gave myself permission to rest and to disconnect. And through that acceptance, healing began to happen more naturally. See, this is the freedom that mindfulness offers. Not freedom from life challenges, but freedom in how we relate to them. Not freedom from all the patterns, but freedom to choose which pattern serves our well-being and our purpose. And not freedom of responsibility, from responsibility, but freedom to respond from our deeper wisdom rather than our conditioning. So as we wrap up our second week of mindfulness journey, I want to offer a practice that brings together everything that we explored. And we're going to call this the freedom meditation. And it's going to help you to experience the liberation that comes through mindful awareness. I want you to find a quiet space that you won't be disturbed. And you will need 15 to 20 minutes for this. And step one is grounding. Begin with our 4-4-6 breathing pattern for a few rounds. And then I want you to feel your body to become settled and present. In step two, pattern awareness. I want you to bring to the mind a pattern in your life that feels limiting or automatic. Perhaps a way that you typically respond to stress, a recurring pattern thought or behavior that you like to change. Don't try to fix it or change this pattern. Simply hold it in your awareness. Step three, compassionate witnessing. As you observe this pattern, I want you to notice any judgments or resistance that arise. Then consciously shift to a stance of compassionate witnessing, seeing the pattern clearly without condemning yourself for having it. I want you to remember that this pattern is likely developed from a reason and it served you in some way. Step four, space creation. I want you to imagine that with each breath that you're creating a more space around this pattern. Feel the spaciousness that comes from simply witnessing without being caught in a pattern. In this space lies your freedom to choose differently. In step 5, freedom affirmation. I want you to place your hand on your heart and silently repeat, I see this pattern clearly. I hold it with compassion. I am not defined by it. I am free to choose my response in each moment. In step 6, integration. As you complete the meditation, set an intention to bring this same quality of mindful awareness to moments when this pattern arises in your daily life. I want you to remember that freedom comes not from perfectly overcoming the freedom, but from bringing compassionate awareness to each time that it appears. This meditation, it will help you to experience how mindfulness creates the conditions from freedom from limiting patterns. It's about seeing clearly and holding with compassion. And I'm strongly on that compassion and remembering your power to choose. All right, my beautiful people, as we complete this second week of exploring mindfulness and presence, I want to express my deepest gratitude for walking this path with me. Your presence, your comments, your shares, they remind me that we are not walking along on this journey of self-love. And next week, we will continue on our exploration of mindfulness by focusing on how it transforms our relationship with ourselves and with others and with the world around us. We discover on how being fully present is the greatest gift that we can offer to those we love. This weekend, I invite you to practice the freedom meditation I shared. Notice the patterns in your life that feels limited and bring mindful awareness to it. Remember that freedom doesn't come perfectly overcoming the pattern, but from seeing it clearly and again holding it with compassion. The beauty of mindfulness is that it meets us exactly where we are. We do not need to already be free from our patterns to practice it. The practice itself gradually creates that freedom. And each moment of awareness is a moment of liberation, no matter how briefly it lasts. You already contain it within you, the seed of freedom. Your awareness is the soul and the sunlight that allows you to grow. So before we end today, I want to remind you about our Year Rebirth Workbook. It has powerful exercises. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram, the Season of Self-Love Podcast. And again, thank you for just being a part of this journey. So until next week, remember to love yourself fiercely, bring compassionate awareness to your patterns, and trust the freedom that emerges when you are fully present. This is Nyomi Banks, and you're listening to the Season of Self-Love. Have an amazing, amazing weekend. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love Podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer. Have a good one.